Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 8.6. Okay, was there something I wanted to say? Not really so much, so let's just continue this. I'm trying to think if there was... Before started a couple of trades. Oh yeah, there was. As you can see from this drop-down menu here, I've deployed the aircraft to through the map and tried to link up the historical groups in their right thing, and I deployed some of the ground units here. So we're going to maybe take a look at these. What's that? 79.25. So now currently we are producing a lot of items here. Still, of course, we're doing more ICs, but so what I want to do there is let's just jump this up to, no, not anything like that, not more than we need, but a little less than we need, but okay, there we go, just so we really start putting a real dent in our upgrades needed, and also reinforcements. Okay, light armor designs have advanced. Most excellent. Okay. And down here, we're getting through most of the training. So let's start doing some command and control improvements. And Iran, sure, you can have some supplies. And what is this? Colombia, yes. So I've deployed a few of the units here, and they're going through their upgrade and improvement capabilities. Okay, I don't know if that's a different country. Warhead infusing for torpedoes, I do believe. Okay, so grayed out there, and we'll leave it at that. Because we've gone down to from high priority to just high popularity to just normal popularity, so that's sort of why we are not doing so well in the leadership research department. Okay, yes, we may have supplies. Close this down and pause to take. I just don't like the idea of I don't know, time pressure on my decisions like this. So that's why I like to pause. And also, quite honestly too, I do pause when I play, just because normally when I'm playing on my own it definitely doesn't matter, in the sense that just taking my time and playing for the enjoyment. But also, since I've sort of got to talk with you and think about that while I'm thinking about decision making, is another reason why I pause as much as I do. I know with some viewers it's an issue, how much we get through, how fast the game flows. I think some of those that it's a significant issue are already gone. They just don't stay around, and I get that. Still trying to get more money guidance. There's a grayed out. No, that we should. Okay. You know, like if saying if it's, you know, serious issue, they've already gone on to somewhere else, and yeah, you know, can't please everybody, I guess. No, we want to increase. We want to get up to 5,000 again. Doesn't mean I don't. There is a balance question, because I know sometimes I go off onto tangents and tirades and whatever, and a few of you like it, but even there, I've got to, you know, balance that off, and so I do want your feedback. Yes, you can go, this channel sucks, and disappear, and that's fine, but that's not helpful. But if you want to say why it sucks, then I'll know. Whether I'll change or not, I don't know, but I do keep them in mind. So, I'm pausing just so we don't have a crash due to the weird sort of bug for production. Yeah, good. So we're still fairly well balanced out. This division here that I put into the queue is, well, it's called calling it an infantry regiment or infantry division motorized, but really it's a one arm, yeah, a half strength, armored battalion. It was about half the. It's a regular. It's not a light armor, so it would have been roughly 20 ICs just for the armored or full armored brigade. So it's 10 or so for the battalion. So yeah, this is sort of we may get part way into this and realize that I've really screwed up, but because I do know that we are getting heavy armor, we are getting a lot of units added, whether to the production queue or just to the map, often with costs. Via events, but I'm not going to solely rely upon that, but I may be over-relying upon it. And we'll learn. To find out if that's enough, because we got a lot of units here. The SA is going to go way weaker soon. It's 39 hits. But we should also have a massive bonus in manpower. No, we don't want fuel. It's already a massive stockpile of fuel. Now, of course, we're not using fuel, meaning we're not driving our tanks around or our aircraft around or anything like that. So having a stockpile is good. Alright, what sort of technology? Standard infantry. Okay. I definitely come to the conclusion that the reason that doesn't create the pop-up because it's just too big. List of what it affects. Or something. Okay, well, at war, okay. There we go. And so I do sort of wonder about how all these mods are going to affect things. No, we don't need to improve relations with Italy either. Right now, if that was Japan, I probably would have taken that amount. Fuel, we give them fuel for money? Sure. You can have fuel. I got plenty. Okay, I'm going to wait a little while longer for the Munich Treaty, just because I think there's going to be one or two more events to fire that I want to fire. And I hope all of that works right, or as well as I've coded it. Now, and every single one of these divisions I deployed out here, I had to change the leaders because often they kept wanting to put Monstein and start in charge of it. And yeah, I get the whatever little AI brain it has and going, hey, he's the best available commander. Yeah, but we don't want to put some super general in charge of a standard infantry division, people. In fact, well, he's going to get promoted up out of being a general or being a divisional commander at some point very soon here, but still, it's just pain in the ass. Now, of course, and I've told people this before, sort of on paper in a flowchart. I don't know if I can find it again. I know I could recreate it. I created a, sort of an AI flowchart thing, if-then statements that would use whether you want to call them flags or tags, and they've now added sort of a flag or a tag to the new templates on Hearts of Iron 4, but I was originally going to tag it so, like, if division has armor, then pick an somebody with Panzer leader trait. But if if it has an SS unit, pick an SS general, or sort of that kind of thing that would make good choices. Maybe not the choices. If you really want to put these guys in charge of their actual units and all that, great, go ahead. Sure, I like putting Rommel in charge of the 7th Panzer Division and some of the SS generals and some of, their sort of famous SS divisions. I like doing that, but I don't obsess over it. But if you want to, great, you can obsess over it. But it would make reasonable choices for divisional commanders out here. You get it done. 90% of the players wouldn't have to touch anything and have everything a reasonable choice. And so it would also, the AI would make reasonable choices for the other nations as well. And I think that would solve most people's complaints about divisional generals. Those who don't want to mess with it would just, oh, there's the name and a photo. Great, whatever. And then just, never have to put it. Those that, like I say, want to do the complete order of battle of Barbarossa with all the generals in charge of each of their divisions and each of the corps and all that historically, you guys can micro it out extreme. I would be somewhere in the middle ground between the never want to touch it to want to micro everything out. So I could do that, but just having to just deploy these few units here, and as well as when I deployed the keep clicking the Air Force, but the damn these buttons are too big because they're bigger than the area of it. But when I was clicking these, I was getting like fighter general stats guys that were going to command medium bombers, so you could do that here as a good AI too. So I can understand people's frustrations with it and why they've soured to the idea of lower level commanders being in the game and that. So I understand that. I really do. Okay, all grayed out. We're not anywhere near doing advanced submarine technologies. So, okay, everything's good until 1939. Then we'll start looking at that again. Sure, I'll absentmindedly check it, but just try to keep that in mind. Float planes, yes, we want to do float planes. That will help a lot of our heavy battleships and such. Just little spotter planes. Give them money for rare materials. No, thank you. On board the big ships. Those float planes, yes, they're multi-role, obviously. Some of the various German, heavy raiders, shall we say. Not all, some of them were pocket battleships, some were heavy cruisers that had them. They were using them out to spot, commercial, trading, transports to go and sink or capture or whatever. But another one of their main functions was to, I'm trying to build up my money, not spend it. One of their main functions Oh, 7th Flieger Division. Okay, yes. Was to not, well, you sure, like you say, find the enemy fleet. But once you know the enemy fleet is there, one thing they would do, of course, is lay smoke screens, and sometimes the destroyers would rush in between the enemy vessels, you know, the main lines of battle, and put out a lot of smoke. And so your line of battleships would turn and make maneuvers behind the smoke, and then come out somewhat unexpectedly and target your enemies. And often, if one side had longer range guns, is to get in close. But because, to a point, the heavier guns on the battleships, especially looking at the Yamato and some of the, the New Jersey class American late war battleships and such, they can shoot outside of visual range, but without radar, they can't hit anything outside of visual range. And even with radar, the radar, at least of World War II, obviously things have improved, you really can't follow the trajectory of your main gun battery fire to your enemy. So you might know that, bearing in distance, and then think, hopefully you're getting right. If you can put up a spotter airplane up high enough up there, he can tell you whether you're long or short or whatever. And if you don't have radar, obviously, even if it's, you're looking at them in binoculars and you're seeing the water columns, if you're long, you're short, or you're long, you might not be it through your binoculars from your ships to be a good judge of just how long or short you are from the, your fire from the enemy vessels. So radioing back that from the float planes, even, like you say, even with radar, can be a critical thing to know that, how to dial in your artillery better. Okay, the 7th Flieger Division. 7th Flieger excuse me. The 7th Flieger Division was formed in 1938 to command all the parachute forces of the Luftwaffe, and was reported as combat ready on 1 September 1938 in time for Operation Grün. That's the Czechoslovakian one. The planning invasion of Czechoslovakia. Did you read that further forward? Should do that maybe first before I start commenting. But the operation was cancelled following the Munich Agreement. Elements of the division took part in the fighting in Poland, though only as motorized infantry in the middle of September 39. During Operation Wewelsburg, the invasion of Denmark and Norway, elements of the division were successfully used to capture key airfields in both countries. In April 1940, for example, the airborne assault on Sola airfield. April 9, 1940. Now, is that Sola in... I don't know where Sola is. Is that Norway or Denmark? How interesting. Okay. So, we're going to get this. Okay, I guess that went onto the map. I'm guessing here. Yeah. There's first student there. Okay, now we're killing off, or Stalin is, the Red Air Force officer purge. Well, good for them. Good for them. I guess they're, unlike the Navy, the Air Force could revolt and start bombing the Kremlin. We talked about long-range artillery. The Soviet Navy did not have naval gunnery range from any of its ports to the Kremlin, so he was safe, at least from any naval revolt that was going to knock him out of power. But hey. Okay, high popularity, which will help our research, which is good. Formation of the SS Totenkopfstandard 4 in Linz, Austria, more formerly Austria. So, we've got a bunch here. Okay, we'll do that in a minute. Attach. Okay, another event from George, 1941, my good friend. Let's see, Chancellor Adolf Hitler, along with General von Brauchitsch, ended a 2-day visit to the autumn maneuvers of the 2nd Army Corps in Grossborn, in Pomerania. What's that here? Okay, so some improved officer training. We spent some supplies, you know, ammunition, whatever, training up, and we've got some improved communications and such from training up experience. Official visit of Admiral Horthy. Obviously that's Hitler. That's the Hungarian admiral who is the regent of the Kingdom of Hungary. Visits Kiel. And it's up here, of course, in Germany. So our improved relations with Hungary. That's good. Now, little sort of side note, and because I do haunt the Hearts of Iron 4 forums multiple times a day, just checking in and seeing what's going on. And I don't read even half of the threads, but I do read a bunch of the threads, and I keep getting ones, oh, why are you disrespecting Poland, or why are you, you're getting it wrong in history in Czechoslovakia. I keep going, why do you think your country, whatever your country is, should be special and not have mistakes in it? Come on, every single country has mistakes. I mean, I almost think it's to the point that it's a joke they're playing on us. They never admitted it. I've ever heard, because they have a color image of Horthy in an army uniform, and I do think I did find somewhere, because I sort of quickly went and looked around and searched on the internet, and I do think I did find this has been a while, it's been more than a year, him in some sort of army uniform, maybe in a painting or something like that, in a color image, and that's what the 2D artists use, because, oh, here's a color image, let's use that. So they have him in his army uniform. Now, 99% of the time, if he was wearing a uniform, he was wearing his naval uniform. So it was just almost always in his naval uniform. Now, so there's an admiral wearing an army uniform in Hearts of Iron 4. And then the other thing I pointed out to them when they were talking about wrong stuff was a general wearing an admiral's uniform. That was Franco. They have Franco. Now, they also have him aged to the, the late 1950s or something. So he's much older in the painting. Because then I did find it. They have him in his admiral's uniform. And I did find the original color painting that someone did of Franco in his admiral's uniform that I suspect he only wore, I don't know, Trafalgar Day wouldn't be, because that was the day that, the Spanish Navy gets... along with the French one, gets its ass kicked out in Cadiz. But there's probably some Spanish historical, probably also not anniversary of the Armada, but probably some major Spanish victory or something, a Navy Day that Franco visited on, and then somebody takes his photo and then makes an official portrait with an admiral uniform that he was wearing for the official big day. And so, yeah, they did take it from a real source. But again, 99% of the time or so, if he's wearing a uniform, he's wearing a Army General's uniform. Franco, to my knowledge, never wore the Phalangist uniform, because he was not a Phalangist. And I do think at times he may have been, though I don't know, pictured in civilian clothes. And again, Horthy may have also worn civilian clothes a lot. I don't know, but I'm used to seeing him in his admiral stuff. So, just sort of the interesting things that Hearts of Iron 4 does, and they don't have any overwhelming interest to correct. So, with the state visit, they're showing how great, that's the little bottom of the swastika, and that's the Hungarian thing that they set up for decorations around, showing off how great the German Navy is to the admiral. Condors across the Atlantic. So, first prototype of the FW200V1 upgraded with extra fuel tanks and redesigned, redesignated S1 instead of the V1. Made several record flights. It was the first heavier than air craft to fly nonstop between Berlin and New York City, making the flight from Berlin Stacken to Floyd Bennett Field in 1939. So 24 hours and 58 minutes. Okay, so realize the difference, because I've flown to Britain, both London and Edinburgh. I've not flown further east, but that from LA, so we're also crossing the U.S. And that's a long flight. I think it's about 8 hours or something. I don't know. It's a long flight. It's been some years now since I last flown it. But to get across from Berlin to New York, it's a 24-hour flight. You're up there 24 hours. I don't know if they would have had. They were definitely had at this time in 38 autopilots that were working, but I don't know how common they were, whether they would have been on a commercial flight like this. And I don't even know how commercial this was and how many passengers early on in 38. But and like we said earlier, of course, Lindbergh had flown to Paris. They specified, notice, Berlin, non-stop first one from Berlin, so fairly deep in the continent. So the Condor is proving the ability to do transatlantic one-way transports at this time. That's why it becomes fairly dangerous during the war, because it can reach out, once you're getting out here, reach out very deep out into the North Atlantic and then get back. And leading up to this, we get some various research gain, and the loss and descent does only 0.5, so it's not even half one of those points there, or whatever. So 0.5, I should say, showing how great our technical developments are, and because we've increased in popularity. Let's see what we're going to do. Look at that. We have a 3/10 of a point left. Should. Why did that not? Oh. No, I was reading that wrong. We have a whole nother, point, and well, we have lots and lots of light and medium bombers, so let's prove the training of the pilots there. So just the Munich treaty coming up soon. Not sure if there's other events to fire. I'm gonna wait just a little bit longer. Okay, pause this while it's happening here. Yeah, I want to improve our relations. I don't know if we can ever really get Turkey into the Axis via non-invasion methods. I just don't know, because I know there's a mechanism here that tries to keep Switzerland neutral, and I think they've also tried to work something with Turkey, and it shouldn't be easy. It shouldn't, because if you don't do some of that, you just go through it, run it, and get it, and outflank the Soviets and get it too easy. So it shouldn't be easy, but let's do that. Okay, money for rare materials. Belgium declined because we're still trying to build up our reserve. SA militia placed under control of the Wehrmacht. Okay, now that the Wehrmacht controls the SA, now that the Wehrmacht controls the SA, their militia is no longer a buildable unit. Okay, so this event, this is not one of mine, but it shouldn't. It's been there for some time. It removes, because if you noticed up there, it had been the ability to build SA militia units. Obviously, if you're having Third Reich events, I don't think you need any more militia units that are SA if you're Germany. You just don't need them. You've got enough. So I don't obviously bother to build them, and you probably shouldn't either. Okay, yes, more air bases down in Austria. We want that. It's costing us a little bit, but not too much. Obviously, these are free, but for having the effect going on. Okay. No. Okay, the Second Sino-Japanese War. The outbreak of the Second Sino-Japanese War in July 1937 destroyed much of the progress and promise made in the nearly 10 years of intense Sino-Japanese cooperation. With the fall of Nanking and the Japanese making further gains, we are now at the crossroads of deciding between upholding our strong economic ties with China or siding with the Empire of Japan, which seems to be far more capable of resisting the Bolsheviks' threat in the Far East. And also at this time, which it doesn't say there, the Bolsheviks are supplying at about this time the main air force for China, Nationalist China. They were getting a lot of support. Okay, that's Nanking, the sort of nationalist capital. And it was done for multiple reasons down there, but a lot of the Chinese look on and see Beijing up here as sort of the Manchu capital of China. And a lot of the Chinese, a great bulk of people, don't like the ethnic Manchus as much. Obviously in modern China the capital has moved back there, but I don't know how much Manchu ethnicity is controlled versus the sort of Han majority peoples of China. So we do this and we will lose our end the Sino-German cooperation treaty, or we can continue it. This doesn't, I don't think, preclude the ability to become an ally with Japan, but it makes it significantly harder. This is fairly well balanced historically compared to some of the stuff we've seen for Hearts of Iron 4. But I don't think China is going to kick Japan's butt. I don't think we're, and I don't think also by siding with China we can keep the US out of the war. So I don't see a good reason not to try to get Japan into the Axis. I've thought and I've talked, and if I can ever get my goddamn internet connection upgraded to much better quality, I want to start live streaming some games. And I'm sort of hesitant to say about this, and even though I know it's going to be some days after this point about talking about this again, because I keep getting trust me, I'm not just talking to the salespeople. I've got contacts into the construction crew, the manager of the construction crew in my area of Greater Los Angeles for Frontier Communications, sort of the phone network, to getting fiber optics streamed to my home, and trying to get all that worked out. And so I've sort of got phone numbers and contacts in the company, and I'm pushing for this. And I want to do that, and I'm sort of hoping to get, whether it becomes a regular thing or not, but I want to live stream it, a multiplayer game. And I thought it would be great to have 4 or more people, including myself, playing multiplayer stuff. And obviously, primarily, I mean, I would be reasonably happy playing some other nations, but since I want to live stream it, and Germany's a very popular nation to do it, I want to play Germany. And I would think having a British player and a Soviet player opposing would be great, and maybe having a Japanese player, someone to play Japan, would also be great. I'm against the idea of having a US player unless there are at least 3 Axis players, and to have an Italian player, just because I think with a human player down here in the Mediterranean, they still, with Italy, still may need some German capabilities to sort of push the tilt it, especially if you also have a British human player down here, tilt the balance to be able to fight well in the Mediterranean, because I really think the U.S. can steamroll Italy. in the Mediterranean. I think it can. And the AI, I don't think AI Japan is capable of defending against a. This is one of the reasons why I don't play the U.S. Really in any of the games, because I just don't think Japan has the ability the AI to defend itself well enough to make good decisions of how many troops do we have in China, how well do we garrison the islands, how well do we use the Navy to protect the islands and control the resources and all of that. Now, if we had a human player playing as Japan, they could probably kick China's ass early enough, quickly enough to sort of end those wars, to then have the forces able to control the Pacific well enough, and if again to have a human in sort of running the Mediterranean with Italy, with German backup and support, then I could see having the third U.S. player, or the third Allied player, or non-Axis player, would be the U.S. Or, of course, if at that point, if it's just two players to skip Britain. So I do sort of want a Soviet player. I think that would be good to see how the Soviets under a human control would be. But they'd have to, sort of the house rules as I'm thinking about them, play historically in the sense that, not that they have to lose the war or do stupid things, but they don't get to, oh, hey, we're going to jump you in 1940 or something, as soon as you're at war with Europe, we're going to refuse to do the Molotov Pact, and as soon as you're at war with France, we're going to be attacking. Now, they got to sort of kind of, go somewhat historical. Again, they can make smarter choices. I don't know how the events and what it affects, if they can, or whatever, decide not to do the purges or other things, because I just haven't played the Soviet Union. But, so they can make better choices than Stalin did. That's not the point. But the point is I guess the point is we have to some degree, keep from going, hey, everybody, it's 1936. Hitler's an evil guy and he's going to kill all your country. So everybody in 1936, let's attack Germany. If we knew history, back then, even Poland would have allied with Czechoslovakia and everybody, and they would have smashed Germany, and maybe even Stalin would have helped without taking all the other countries. So you sort of have to do some of that when you're dealing with humans. And so if we could do that, I'd really like to. And I got a couple of people that have sort of said that they would like to, and maybe a few more people would want to think about that when I can. So that's sort of one of my hopes to do. But like I was saying, I don't think the AI China is going to be able to hold out long enough. So, and I think the U.S. will still come into war, because one of the things, if you're going to go down a very big historical choice, is to go, no, we're going to side with China and we're going to dump in resources and volunteers and or whatever, lend lease to China to keep them going. And if that can keep the U.S. from going, and if Japan then acts up nasty, in China or wherever, and maybe whether they do Pearl Harbor or just simply the U.S. has enough, the U.S. has its own war, maybe not, different faction, like the Comintern isn't part, the communists aren't part of the Allies, but, sort of have the U.S. faction fighting Japan over here, but not at war with Germany. Okay, that'd be a different sort of thing. And I might try that, but not if they're going to be coming after Germany anyways. Might as well have Japan. So, China's going to get pissed off at us. We're going to lose some of our resources. But let's see here. Sino-Soviet cooperation minus 10% on money. So we'll get 10% more money back, so that will help us out. We're going to lose 20% on our rare materials coming in, which will hurt us. We're going to plus 15% because we're, I guess, giving off. We're going to lose because it's going to go away. Lose 15% on our steel, which is going to hurt us right now. And here, well, we're not getting any coal from there, so it's going to hurt us a little bit. Supplies. We're going to get 10% more supplies because we're no longer sending supplies to China. So it will help and it'll hurt, but we're going to go with that. Okay, the STG for 1939. This is again one of their big dinners, and that's Admiral Reeder, Eric Reeder. He comes in and looks, because that's him there, comes in and looks at a lot of models. Well, it's a little bit more than that, obviously, but they're continuing to do various research. You can read about it in more detail there. So we gain a bunch of little minor bonuses spread around, but it's how the German Navy is continuing to develop. Okay, the Hitler Youth go to Japan. We saw earlier the Japanese coming to Germany with their sort of Japanese youth program. Like I said, they sort of uniformed up for that, and they also sort of did a little bit when Hitler Youth goes over there, but not so much. These are older Hitler Youth boys in the sort of the last year or two or whatever in the Hitler Youth, and a few Hitler Youth leader types that go all the way over to Japan. We can send them. They'll improve our relationship or not. And just sort of an interesting distinction between the two. Japan, and Japan is racist in a sense, not in the Nazi sort of we want to kill other races, and a lot of Asian people in Asia are racist. They have, quite honestly, very negative feelings against Africans and different feelings about different groups. They're definitely racist to this day. I watch a video blog coming out of China, and they talk about a lot of the current Chinese situations, there's a lot of hyper-nationalism going on in China right now, and it's very sort of anti-foreigner, but they also have certain racial kind of things, and sort of in a way, sort of mixed on white people and whatever, but they talk about that, and they're much more open about it to this day. So Japan was racist there, and Japan was even racist against other Asian people in that they sort of thought themselves superior. But a lot of their people, the youth that they sent to Germany, wore eyeglasses. Well, I think if I remember reading correctly, the Japanese sort of reacted that none of the Germans wore eyeglasses, the Hitler Youth people that showed up in Germany. And Germany wouldn't distinctly decided make sure that none of the representatives of the great Aryan race had any defects like needing eyeglasses. So obviously there's lots of Germans that need eyeglasses, but they don't want to show that off, so they're trying to hide that fact, where the Japanese see eyeglasses as a corrective thing and thing that shows off you're educated enough to need them, in the sense if you're just a farmer and you have somewhat bad eyesight, no big deal, but if you're an educated person and you need to read complicated things and whatever, eyeglasses, so there's not a stigma attached to having them in Japan at this time. And so that was just sort of an interesting little side note that they saw. That's sort of the badge the Japanese gave the guys that showed up there. Let's see, he's wearing it on this HJ uniform for the event or whatever. That's off there. So we can send them, cost us some money because it's foreign travel, improve relationships or not. We're going to do that because we want to get Japan into the Axis. So just interesting cultural exchanges, I find out. Okay, reduce that down. We're cranking through this. Okay, now that we are getting ready to do that, let's reduce this down considerably, but we want to still have a minor positive. So we're still wanting to slowly at least bring it down. And let's get that to there. No, let's just lower it a little below. We need to continue to do that. And good. That's fairly well balanced. Okay, so we've lost this, as we really would. Okay, this year's payments to the Ascari pension fund in Tanganyika, only 20 minus lost money, so obviously we can afford that easy. We'll give them money for exchange. G and decline. Okay, Peru will no longer receive money for supplies. Twin engine Bombay has have advanced. I want to make sure we're not continuing to. Yeah, stop that. And armor unit training has advanced, and I think we want to stop that as well. Well, temporarily, we may come back and restart that. Okay. Sauer and Son, JP Sauer, of course, you know the SIG Sauer pistol, which is SIG. The SIG company is a Swiss company that eventually comes up. Nazi Germany used a lot of different models of pistols. They, by the time the war comes around, they cannot keep up with their needs for pistols. They can't keep up with their needs for rifles either. And I'm not just talking about the latter days of the Volkssturm, where they're trying to, give every man a rifle. They didn't have enough rifles, and if you look at photos of them, a great proportion of those people that were handing out, photos and film footage of them marching out to the front, they're with captured rifle stocks, and often of calibers that are not common, though sometimes they're good rifles, Enfields or whatever, that they just captured in large bunches but hadn't used till then. But even before that, you find like Luftwaffe units, and I do know a lot of the Luftwaffe armed ground force divisions were armed with really good premier German products, machine guns, rifles, whatnot. Sometimes much better than the Army with newer stuff, just because they're... Now, I'm not talking just about the Hermann Goering division. I'm talking about some of these other Luftwaffe ground divisions. They got sort of the prime choice because of Goering's influence. So that definitely like that. But some other Luftwaffe troops, and I think they're definitely ground troops. I'm thinking maybe whether they're they're stuff I've seen photographed in the East, whether they're flak units or whether they're base security or whatever. Fairly early mid-war. Using what looks to be like most of Nagant rifles or something sort of stacked in tripod settings. You can tell they're not Mausers. So that Germany just never, and then also like photos of guys standing on the defenses, in German army uniforms in Norway carrying Krag Jorgensen rifles. Just because there was lots of Krag Jorgensen rifles, they were mildly acceptable, and there's lots of ammunition, and these were garrison troops. That's what was issued locally. So they never had enough rifles for everybody. They never had enough pistols for everybody, because theoretically they would want everybody to have a P-38. They did keep the Lugers in production throughout the war, I do believe. But they were very complicated guns to make compared to, say, the P-38, which is a very simple gun to make. So they just needed every single pistol they can get their hands on. And I own a late war Walter PP pistol, not the PPK, which is the police pistol Kurtz, the short one like James Bond carried, but mine's just a Walther PP, and it's in .32 caliber. What's it? 7.65 or something like that, millimeter. But instead of in the 380, because they made them in both calibers. But this is the late war and pistol, although sort of finished on the outside, often called the straw finish, but partially because of the brownish tint to it. But they didn't finish. You can see the machining marks on the outside of the gun. They only really polished up the parts that moved, and so there was a lot of, this is new production coming out of Walther's factory that they were cutting corners on, and they made it in .32 caliber, which I find interesting because you're in the middle of a war, and .32 caliber is a very lightweight pistol round, and one that I don't think anybody's dreaming that you're using it as a combat pistol. I know a number of pilots carried Walthers, the PP types, just in case they get shot down. They have a pistol, but even there, and they want to carry the small one instead of a big P-38 or big Luger. to fit with their flight suits in many cases. Though they did carry those other things too. But if you look at a Luger holster, it's pretty big and cumbersome, the way the Germans did it. So you want a smaller pistol to, in your flight suit. So, but to go with the 32 caliber instead of the 380 caliber, sort of surprising, but so that's what they're still doing. So this just sort of shows one of the other companies that manufactures pistols. And I sort of like the advertisement. These are sort of blown up from it, but the SA guy in front, maybe like the SS guy. That's a next one back is a policeman, and that's a RAD hat. The Arbeitsdienst, and from here I can't. Maybe NSKK or something in the rear. So these are non-combat types. An advertisement from some magazine or something for these pistols for non-combat types. The Sauer Model H. I own a few Sauers, but I don't think I have an H from this time period. But I own, like I say, a few of them. But so that these, were going on. So this is sort of showing you could put some energy metal, which obviously we don't have much of, but okay. And supplies towards better police and partisan suppression gain, or not, and sort of represent that. Okay, German National Prize for Arts and Science, 1938. Let's see, that's Ferdinand Porsche, that's right. Pretty sure that's Willy Messerschmitt there. I have that right. And that's obviously Fritz Todt. And who's this other guy here? Ernst Heinkel. Maybe that's Heinkel. That looks out of date. That mustache, that looks like it may be, I'm sorry, Messerschmitt or Heinkel or somebody, but from a much earlier. That looks like in the 1920s or earlier or something. I don't know. I found better photos for those events for later on, because I have incorporated that along with some other stuff for Hearts of Iron 3 that covers man, I'm blanking, one of the other person who's been my tester. He contributed a lot of scientific events covering some of this, but also in the Nobel Prize situation continuing, that they were still going on at this time back and forth about, as well as some other German scientific breakthroughs for the stuff, and I dug up some really good photos. So we've got a bunch of gain for various things in the different areas: aircraft, armor designs, monumental architecture, and that kind of civil defense for Todt. So good. Hope I identified those people correctly. And we have more leadership now. Just a little bit. Well, a little bit more. Let's do TAC ground crew. I say we have a lot of those. Let's do that. We need radar impact on ground control as well. That will be very useful. Okay, so let's see what these guys want. Money? No, we're not. We want money. Yes, we'll give you supplies. And continue to readjust that down. And tank destroyer design has advanced. That's good. Well, it was meant to go. The reason I've left something like radar or fighter ground control impact is didn't benefit us earlier on, where some of the other ones would have benefited us a little bit better in growth, because they will affect production of things. I'm not a heavy user of air, partially because I don't think it has maybe as big an impact as it should. Air is a hard thing to balance, I think. You don't want to be able to just destroy everything with air power, but then again, air power did have a very big effect on things. So just where to draw that line. Let's go up and look at electronics here. Yeah. Let's do tank radios. Oh, and also let's see about, well, what are they? Oh, we'll give them that. That won't last long, but let's see about that for a while. It should get us to positive place. Yeah. You're gonna, no, I'm trying to build up my money. Okay, Wewelsburg, SS Leaders HQ. The Reichsführer Himmler establishes the long German unpronounceable words to fund the renovation of Wewelsburg castle there. The SS needs a spiritual home to develop the new Aryan elite. Western and southern wings are nearly finished, but the eastern wing needs much work. The castle, under the leadership of Stepping, will function as the center of our new order. The black sun will rise in the west. That's sort of the black sun thing, and a lot of sort of mysticism. This is an event that, oh, it's very real. All that information is quite correct. But I was working on want to build someday a sort of a semi-fantasy. I say semi-fantasy because it's based in some real history, based in some speculative history, and that we think we know because we're speculating about it, meaning we don't have good evidence, and then some fantasy elements of it, of a sort of a Hitler mystical or SS mystical, wonder weapon kind of mod that basically tries to drive you to conquer, get a hold of Tibet, to do all kinds of cool things that would have a historical base, but it's taking off into some of its realm of speculation, meaning we think we know, but we don't have a good evidence, or at least various people say they think they know, but I don't think they have good evidence, including some of the evidence is some of the people that were supposedly involved stated that this is what happened after the war, but I don't trust that because they could just be making it up to be as disinformation from what they really know is true, trying to hide the truth, or they could just be making it up to get book sales or get attention. Or it could just be they think they're telling the truth because it's the way they remember it after the war, all kinds of stuff. So I don't trust some of these people about these secret societies, the mysticism. But there was most assuredly, and there's the tile floor on the bottom of the castle. That's a modern photo that I black and white out of that thing. So it's real. They were really working on this stuff. Himmler really believed it. So it's real, but we have to guess at some of the details because a lot of that information was post. Okay. Money, energy, only 100, metal, 450. Gain 60 officers. I'm going to say no this time. Normally I say yes because normally I can afford it with no problem. But I'm going to tell Himmler no. He can't have the excess resources to do his stuff. Don't think that's going to have any bad consequences later, meaning other stuff not happen. No. Okay, great. Finally, coal technologies have advanced. Great, 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 great. Because look, we're already down at 6.5. Now, industry, coal, 41. Well, we want to do more, but I'm not going to push that far ahead. I'd be pushing 39 right now, that's for sure. At tech date. I'll probably push when I get to 40. I mean, get to, yeah, 40. Yeah. Readjust this down. Maybe that's what it would be. Now, if you want to give feedback on this, I would appreciate it. I know if I start releasing too many videos, well, if I start releasing 2 videos a day on Hearts of Iron, even like if one's a Hearts of Iron 4 and one's a Hearts of Iron 3, because I've done this recently, viewership goes down on each one of them. So, I know some of these are long, and I'm intentionally making them longer than I sort of want to, just because I want to get through this time period, get into the action, because I do normally see a spike up of viewership once I do. I'm sort of kind of thinking that if you are interested but not interested in all this detail, you just skip through these videos. So, you know, get the highlights and go on. At least that's what my hope is that if these things are taking too long for you, just, you know, use that YouTube, skip ahead 5 minutes or something. That's fine if you want to do that. But if you want to give feedback on, because I don't want to oversaturate, you know, because I'm sure if each video is 15 or 10 or 15 minutes long, putting out more than one in a day would be fine, because you guys could watch it. But so I don't know what's the right goal for showing videos, because I do want to, I'm, you know, continuing this series, and I want to do this series, and this series so far has been getting reasonably good views. But I'm going to want to also, I don't know, because I'm a little ahead right now because I want to get through all this and I'm enjoying playing. I'm going to want to be, especially once Black Ice gets their new version out for Hearts of Iron 4, with the, you know, the updates, upgrades, with the new AI, it's going to be really good. And I think I'm going to get good viewership on that. I haven't started that series, at least not at the time of making of this. And I, you know, don't know about trying to show 2 in a day. I don't want to step on each other's coverage, because I know some of you will watch either stuff, but just looking at some of the demographics and some of the stuff, some of you will only watch Hearts of Iron 3 and won't watch 4, and some, obviously, you're not watching. If you won't watch 3, you're not watching this if you only watch 4. So I may talk about this later, but how best, I don't know, to divvy up between the competing stuff, because because obviously I'm creative and working in the Hearts of Iron 4 world. I do want to continue to show it, and so this is not going to become just a Hearts of Iron 3 channel, even if it's Hearts of Iron 3 is very popular. So I just don't know how best to handle it. But so any comments or ideas on that, I'd gladly take them. Whether I follow them or not is another matter. That would want. Okay, 4-engine bomb bay advance. Good, we've got our 4-engine bombers improved up here. Gun ability, 2-engine plane, 37, so that's where we will ship to with our gun. Okay, well, diplomatic reports. Our diplomatic service reports that the Czechoslovakian government has disbanded the SDP and issued arrest warrants for Conrad Headline, this guy up here, and Carl Herman. Frank, I know this guy here, he's the real sort of evil guy of the pair, but the number 2 guy in the SDP. So we've now, that action now pisses Germany off and makes us upset. Der Führer speaks. Hitler made a speech at the Nazi Party rally in Nuremberg station on the Sudeten crisis, in which he considers the actions of the government of Czechoslovakia, basically banning the SDP. Hitler denounced Czechoslovakia as being a fraudulent state that was in violation of international laws, emphasizing national self-determination, claiming it was a Czech hegemony where neither the Germans, the Slovaks, nor the Hungarians, the Ukrainians, nor the Poles of the country actually wanted to be in a union with the Czechs. So we are now threatening Czechoslovakia, and our relations have gotten even worse with them. We had the Zeus event before. I mean, we saw it before, but because of the restart, it didn't happen until now. It's not double firing. It's just only finally firing. Okay, so I'm going to go a little bit later into September. So now we're getting really close to the historical date, and I don't have it right in my head, of the whole Munich crisis. The Munich betrayal, various, as the Czechs, I think, refer to it. Okay, here's also the event, or another event covering the same Basic Party Congress. This is the Basic Black Ice event. They messed with the swastikas there. Okay, so this one will boost our popularity, cost some supplies, and get us 6 additional ICs. Yay. Now, I wanted to check before we do this. Okay, notice we had been at a positive of 6 for coal because current state of the situation is why it was happening. And then we had the coal processing to 15% bonus. So now we're up at 72. So I was going to wonder to see how big that was, because obviously it's going to go down because we have more ICs on the map. LZ 130, the Graf Zeppelin 2 is now launched, and we now have a modern Zeppelin, because we did have the LZ 28, which was the Graf Zeppelin 1, still in function. It still was in the hangars, but basically not being used much by this time. That's why they're doing the Graf Zeppelin 2, and obviously we've lost the other modern Zeppelin in the Hindenburg going boom. Zeppelins are cool. I would not go riding in one with a hydrogen gas-filled bags, but I would go in a helium one. Maybe not across the Atlantic or something, but I'd take a ride in that helium-filled one. No, we're up here. Okay, so we've got that. It's grayed out, but it's not yet unlocked. Amphibious warfare now. Okay, we're doing paratrooper, speaks, brigade, Arctic warfare equipment. Just looking to see what we can do there. Mountain warfare training. 38, good. Airbase. Not exactly sure what all that does, but we're gonna go for that. Never quite fully figured that one out. Partially figured it out, I would say, but never fully. Okay, what do these guys want? Like, no. We're trying to build up more money. Good, plus 13. After the additional, okay, so we're still at 72. Well, I may have need to be upgraded. We're gonna get a bunch more coming very soon. We want to receive money for supplies. Well, because probably a few other people are going to drop out here. Let's see what we can do with the U.S. here now. Okay, they got lots of money. Let's see if we can sell them some supplies. Yes, good. Guess let's go with 20. I'd rather do more long-term stable trades than, you know, sell 50 supplies and have them drop it in 3 weeks. Okay, wow. Just saw a bunch of ICs go onto the map. Industrial efficiency advance, great. Industrial, stop for now. And twin engine airframe research has advanced as well. Make sure that that is grayed out. Okay, good. Now that will allow us to shift things over. We're getting close to that. User fire control would be nice, but let's... A lot of those, like I said, I'd probably come back and check this once in a while. Submarines... We gotta wait till... Well, I don't have to wait, but we're gonna wait till 39 for some of those. Yeah, that would be useful. And barely interception tactics, that would also be useful. Effectively intercept enemy fighters. And we need some more stuff to deploy. Okay, well I think we're going to take this point to end the episode here. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and thanks for liking the videos, of course. I really do appreciate it. And please post questions, comments, suggestions, ideas, feedback when you can. And like I said, your thoughts on how best to continue releasing content, because I don't want to overwhelm you. If you guys mostly can just watch one thing a day, well then that's all I should probably release. But if there's a good way to do it for more, I don't know. I know, like I said, I've been talking about wanting to do some live streaming. My hope with the live streaming is that I can capture a different audience with it. Both on Twitch and YouTube both have live streaming capabilities to do different ones and different things like that, to then hopefully find people there that would subscribe to this channel and also subscribe to my Twitch channel. And of course you guys can go over and do that right now, even though I've not put any content out. It would sort of be nice. And that's, you know, gamer _ 1745 over on Twitch. But you know, do some of that to sort of build up the community a bit more, get another source of people coming in, I hope. There's my hopes for that. So, thanks a lot. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.